In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, where maple trees lined the streets like silent guardians, Emily Harper lived a life that seemed painted from a storybook. She was 28 years old, with auburn hair that cascaded in soft waves down her back, and eyes the color of storm clouds, gray and unpredictable. Her husband, Daniel, was the steady anchor in her world. They had met in college, during a rainy autumn afternoon when he offered her his umbrella outside the library. He was kind, reliable, the sort of man who remembered anniversaries with handwritten notes and brought home her favorite chamomile tea without being asked. Their home was a cozy two-story house with a white picket fence, a garden blooming with roses in summer, and a kitchen where they cooked meals together on weekends. To the outside world, they were the epitome of marital bliss. But beneath the surface, cracks had begun to form. Emily worked as a graphic designer at a bustling agency downtown, where deadlines loomed like shadows and creativity flowed in erratic bursts. Daniel, an accountant at a firm across town, spent his days buried in spreadsheets and tax forms. Their evenings had grown routine. Dinner at 7, a show on the television, bed by 10. Conversations that once sparked with passion now dwindled to discussions about bills and groceries. Emily felt a restlessness stirring within her, a quiet ache for something more vibrant, more alive. She loved Daniel, he was her safe harbor, but the fire that once burned between them had dimmed to embers. It started innocently enough, or so she told herself. At work, there was Alex, the new creative director. He was 32, with a disarming smile, tousled dark hair, and a laugh that echoed through the office like music. Alex had a way of making everyone feel seen, especially Emily. During brainstorming sessions, he would lean in close, his voice low and encouraging as he praised her ideas. "You're brilliant, Em," he'd say, his hand brushing hers accidentally, or was it? She felt a thrill she hadn't experienced in years, a spark that ignited her imagination and quickened her pulse. One evening, after a particularly grueling project deadline, the team went out for drinks at a dimly lit bar called The Lantern. Daniel was working late, as usual, so Emily decided to join. The air was thick with the scent of whiskey and laughter. Alex sat beside her, their knees touching under the table. As the night wore on and colleagues drifted away, they remained, talking about everything and nothing: art, dreams, the places they'd always wanted to visit. Paris, Emily confessed, her cheeks flushed from the wine. "I've always dreamed of seeing the Eiffel Tower at night." Alex's eyes met hers, intense and unwavering. "We should go someday," he murmured, his words hanging in the air like a promise. That night, as she drove home, Emily's mind raced. Guilt gnawed at her, but so did excitement. Daniel was asleep when she slipped into bed, his breathing steady and familiar. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the evening. It was just harmless flirting, she reasoned. Nothing more. But harmless quickly turned into something deeper. The next day at work, Alex sent her a message. "Missed our chat already. Coffee?" They met in the break room, where he handed her a latte with a foam heart on top. "For the artist in you," he said with a wink. Their conversations grew more personal. Emily shared her frustrations about her marriage the way Daniel's predictability sometimes felt like a cage. Alex listened without judgment, his empathy drawing her in like a magnet. He told her about his own past, a failed engagement that left him wary of commitment but hungry for connection. Weeks passed in a blur of stolen moments. Lunches extended into afternoons, emails turned flirtatious, and touches lingered longer than necessary. Emily found herself dressing with more care, choosing outfits that accentuated her figure, applying lipstick in shades she hadn't worn since her early 20s. At home, she was distant, her mind elsewhere. Daniel noticed, of course. "Everything okay, love?" he'd ask, his brow furrowed with concern. She'd smile and nod, planting a quick kiss on his cheek. "Just tired from work." The first kiss happened on a Thursday evening. The office was empty, save for the hum of fluorescent lights. They were working late on a campaign, papers scattered across the conference table. Alex reached for a sketch at the same time as Emily, their fingers intertwining. Time seemed to freeze. He looked at her, his gaze filled with longing. "Emily," he whispered, pulling her close. Their lips met in a rush of heat and desperation. It was electric, forbidden, everything her life with Daniel lacked. She pulled away first, breathless, her heart pounding. "We can't," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. They could, and they did. The affair unfolded in secret rendezvous. Hotel rooms booked under false names, weekend work trips that took her out of town, late-night texts that she deleted before Daniel could see. Each encounter was a whirlwind of passion, Alex's hands exploring her body with a fervor that made her feel desired, alive. He whispered promises in her ear. "You're the one I've been waiting for." Emily believed him, or wanted to. In those moments, she forgot about the ring on her finger, the vows she had made 5 years ago in a sunlit church surrounded by family and friends. But guilt was a constant companion lurking in the shadows. At home, Daniel's touches felt mechanical, his love a reminder of her betrayal. She avoided his eyes during dinner, feigned headaches to escape intimacy. One night, as they lay in bed, he turned to her. "I feel like I'm losing you," he said softly, his voice cracking. Emily's chest tightened. "Don't be silly," she replied, forcing a laugh. But inside, she was torn. She loved Daniel's stability, his unwavering support, but Alex offered adventure, an escape from the mundane. The deception deepened. Emily created alibis, lied about meetings, even bought a second phone to communicate with Alex. Her friends noticed the change, her glowing skin, the secretive smiles, but she brushed off their questions. "Just happy," she'd say. In truth, she was unraveling. Sleepless nights were filled with what-ifs. What if Daniel found out? What if she left him? What if Alex wasn't who she thought? The turning point came during a company retreat in the mountains. Emily told Daniel it was mandatory, packing her bags with a mix of excitement and dread. The cabin was rustic, surrounded by pine trees and a serene lake. Alex was there, of course, and they stole away to a secluded spot by the water. Under the stars, they made love, the cool air heightening every sensation. "I can't live without this," Alex murmured afterward, holding her close. Emily felt a surge of emotion, love, perhaps, or infatuation masquerading as such. But the next morning, reality crashed in. Back at the cabin, her phone buzzed with a message from Daniel. "Miss you already. Can't wait for you to come home." Tears welled in her eyes. She pictured his face, the way he smiled when she walked through the door. For the first time, the weight of her actions felt unbearable. She ended things with Alex that afternoon, her voice trembling. "This has to stop. I'm married." He protested, his eyes pleading, but she walked away, her heart heavy. Returning home, Emily confessed everything. It was a rainy evening, much like the day they met. They sat at the kitchen table, the air thick with tension. "I've been seeing someone," she began, her words tumbling out in a rush. Daniel's face paled, his hands clenching the table edge. He listened in silence as she detailed the affair, the lies, the passion, the regret. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry. I love you. I don't know why I did it." Daniel didn't shout or storm out. Instead, he sat there, shattered. "How could you?" he whispered finally, his voice breaking. They talked through the night, unraveling the threads of their marriage. He admitted his part, the complacency, the neglect. She confessed her loneliness, her search for excitement. By dawn, exhaustion claimed them, but a fragile understanding emerged. In the months that followed, they sought counseling, rebuilding trust brick by brick. It wasn't easy. Wounds like that didn't heal overnight. There were arguments, tears, moments when Emily wondered if they could survive. But Daniel's forgiveness, hard-earned and genuine, became their foundation. Emily cut ties with Alex, quitting her job to start fresh at a new agency. She focused on their relationship, planning date nights, surprising Daniel with gestures of love. Years later, as they sat on their porch watching the sunset, Emily reflected on that dark chapter. The affair had nearly destroyed them, but it also forced them to confront their flaws, to choose each other anew. She squeezed Daniel's hand, grateful for the second chance. Their love, tempered by fire, burned brighter than before. And in the quiet of Willow Creek, they found peace, not perfect, but real. Wait, this is too short. I need to expand it massively to reach 30,000 characters. Let's add detailed descriptions, internal monologues, flashbacks, more scenes. Emily Harper gazed out the window of her office. The city skyline a blur of steel and glass under the overcast sky. It was a Tuesday in early spring, the kind where the air held the promise of rain but never quite delivered. She twirled her wedding ring absent-mindedly, the gold band a constant reminder of the life she had built with Daniel. 5 years of marriage, countless shared memories, yet lately it all felt like a distant echo. Her thoughts drifted to the previous night. Daniel had come home late from work, his tie loosened, eyes weary from staring at numbers all day. They had eaten dinner in silence, the clink of forks against plates the only sound. "How was your day?" he had asked, his voice laced with genuine interest. "Fine," she replied, not meeting his eyes. The truth was, her day had been anything but fine. It had been exhilarating, thanks to Alex. Alex Thornton joined the agency 3 months ago, bringing with him a fresh wave of energy that invigorated the entire team. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a jawline that could have been chiseled from marble. His eyes were a deep brown, warm and inviting, and when he smiled, dimples appeared that made Emily's stomach flutter. From the moment he introduced himself in the staff meeting, she felt drawn to him. "I'm here to shake things up," he said with a grin, and shake things up he did. Their first real interaction was during a client pitch. Emily was presenting her designs, her voice steady despite the nerves. Alex, seated at the head of the table, nodded approvingly. After the meeting, he approached her. "That was impressive. You have a real talent for capturing emotion in your work." His compliment lingered in her mind long after, a spark in the monotony of her routine. As days turned into weeks, their professional relationship evolved into friendship. They shared lunches in the park near the office, discussing everything from favorite books to childhood memories. Alex grew up in a small town by the sea, the youngest of 4 siblings, always the adventurer. "I once backpacked through Europe for 6 months, he told her one afternoon, his eyes lighting up. Emily envied his freedom. Her life had always been structured, say. Daniel was the opposite of Alex, steady, predictable. They met in their sophomore year of college. He was studying finance, she art. It was love at first sight, or so she thought. He proposed on a beach vacation, down on one knee as the sun dipped below the horizon. "Will you make me the happiest man?" he asked. She said yes without hesitation. But marriage brought responsibilities. They bought the house in Willow Creek, furnished it with pieces from antique shops, planned for the future. Children were discussed, though not yet pursued. Emily loved Daniel's gentleness, the way he held her during thunderstorms, whispering reassurances. Yet the passion had faded, replaced by comfort. With Alex, passion was alive and electric. One Friday, after a successful project launch, the team celebrated at the Lantern. Music pulsed through the bar, bodies swaying on the dance floor. Emily had a few glasses of wine, her inhibitions lowering. Alex pulled her onto the dance floor, his hands on her waist. They moved together, bodies close, the heat between them palpable. "You're incredible," he whispered in her ear. She laughed, but her heart raced. That night, as she lay beside Daniel, sleep eluded her. She imagined Alex's lips on hers, his touch igniting fires she thought extinguished. Guilt washed over her, but so did desire. "It's just a crush," she told herself. "It will pass." It didn't pass. The following week, Alex invited her to a gallery opening. "It's work-related," he said, but his tone suggested otherwise. Emily told Daniel she had a networking event. The gallery was filled with abstract paintings, vibrant colors splashing across canvases. They wandered from piece to piece, their arms brushing. At one painting, a swirl of reds and blacks depicting turmoil. Alex turned to her. "This reminds me of how I feel when I'm not with you." Her breath caught. They left the gallery, walking through the city streets. Rain began to fall, light at first, then heavier. They ducked into an alley, laughing. Under awning, Alex cupped her face and kissed her. It was gentle yet urgent, a floodgate opening. Emily kissed back, her hands in his hair, the world fading away. From there, the affair escalated. They met in coffee shops, parks, eventually hotels. Each time, Emily promised herself it was the last, but the pull was too strong. Alex made her feel young, desired. "I love the way you laugh," he'd say, tracing patterns on her skin. In bed, he was attentive, exploring her body with reverence. With Daniel, sex had become rote, a duty rather than delight. The lies multiplied. Late meeting, client dinner, girls' night. Emily hated the deception, the way it tainted her. She looked at Daniel and saw hurt in his eyes, though he said nothing. nothing. One evening, he surprised her with tickets to a concert her favorite band. To rekindle things, he said hopefully. She went, but her mind was with Alex, who had texted her earlier. Thinking of you. The guilt built like a storm. Emily began to snap at Daniel over small things, the way he loaded the dishwasher, his forgetfulness. He apologized, confused. What's going on, Ham? He'd ask. Nothing, she'd reply, turning away. Then came the retreat. The company rented cabins in the Appalachians, a team-building weekend. Emily packed, her heart conflicted. Daniel kissed her goodbye. Have fun, but not too much, he joked. She forced a smile. At the retreat, nature was breathtaking, towering trees, crisp air, a lake mirroring the sky. Activities included hiking, workshops. Alex and Emily found moments alone. One night, around a campfire, stories were shared. Later, they slipped away to his cabin. The sex was intense, raw. Afterward, lying in his arms, Alex said, "Leave him. Be with me." The words hit like a punch. Emily dressed quickly, tears streaming. "I can't. I love him." She fled to her cabin, sobbing. The next day, she avoided Alex, her mind reeling. Homebound, she decided to confess. Daniel deserved the truth. That evening, rain pounded the roof as she sat him down. "I have to tell you something." The confession poured out, the meetings, the kisses, the intimacy. Daniel listened, his face ashen. When she finished, silence hung heavy. "Why?" he asked, voice hoarse. "I felt lost. You were always there, but I needed more." She reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "I trusted you," he said, standing. He left the room, the door closing softly. The next days were agony. Daniel slept on the couch, barely speaking. Emily cried alone, regretting everything. She quit her job, blocked Alex. Slowly, they talked. Counseling helped sessions where they bared souls. Daniel revealed his fears of inadequacy, Emily her need for excitement. Forgiveness came gradually. They dated again, rediscovering each other. Trips, dances, long talks. The scar remained, but it strengthened them. In time, their love deepened, a testament to resilience. Emily never forgot the pain she caused, vowing to cherish what they had. And in Willow Creek, their story continued, whole once more. Still short, let's keep expanding with more details, internal thoughts, scenes. Add flashback to wedding day. On their wedding day, the church was filled with the scent of lilies. Sunlight streaming through stained glass. Emily walked down the aisle in a lace gown, her father at her side. Daniel waited at the altar, his eyes shining with tears. "You look beautiful," he whispered as she took his hand. Vows were exchanged. In sickness and in health, for better or worse. They kissed to cheers, the future bright. Now, that memory mocked her as she lay in a hotel bed with Alex, sheets tangled. Bodies slick with sweat. This is wrong, she thought, but the pleasure drowned the voice. Add more scenes of the affair. One afternoon, they met in a park, benches dusted with fallen leaves. Alex brought picnic cheese, wine, strawberries. They fed each other, laughing. "Tell me about your dreams," he said. Emily spoke of traveling, creating art that mattered. "With you, I feel I can do anything," she admitted. Another time, in a hotel room with city views, they danced to music from his phone. His hands roamed, undressing her slowly. "You're perfect," he murmured. The sex was passionate, her moans filling the room. At home, contrast. Daniel cooking her favorite pasta, lighting candles. "I love you," he said. She echoed the words, but they felt hollow, billed to discovery or confession. One day, Daniel found a receipt for a hotel in her purse. "What's this?" he asked, voice calm but eyes suspicious. Emily stammered, "Work expense." He nodded, but doubt lingered. That pushed her to end it. After confession, detailed recovery. Counseling. Therapist asking, what led to this? Emily explaining boredom, Alex's allure. Daniel sharing his neglect due to work stress. They renewed vows privately, on a beach at sunset, just them. Final scene. Years later, with a child, happy family. They had a daughter, Lily, 2 years old, with Emily's hair and Daniel's eyes. Watching her play, Emily felt grateful. The end. To reach length, I need to flesh out every scene with sensory details, thoughts, dialogue. Estimate. A standard novel page is about 2,500 characters. 3OK is about 12 pages. So, a short novella. I'll write a detailed story. Control 12. Emily stared at the flickering screen of her laptop. the cursor blinking mockingly as if it knew her secret. The office was quiet now, most of her colleagues having left for the day, their desks abandoned like ghosts in the dim light. She was 28, married for 5 years to Daniel, the man who had promised her forever in a small church surrounded by wildflowers and family. But forever felt like a distant echo these days, drowned out by the thrill of something new, something forbidden. It had begun innocently, or at least that's what she told herself in the quiet moments when guilt crept in. Alex had joined the design firm 3 months ago as the new art director. He was 32, with a sharp jawline, eyes the color of deep ocean waves, and a laugh that resonated through the open plan office like a melody she couldn't forget. From the first team meeting, where he outlined his vision for bolder campaigns, Emily felt a pull toward him. His ideas sparked hers, his compliments made her cheeks flush. "You have an incredible eye for detail," he said one afternoon, leaning over her shoulder to point at her sketch. His breath was warm on her neck and she shivered, attributing it to the air conditioning. Daniel was the opposite, in every way steady, reliable. The kind of man who folded laundry without being asked and remembered to water the plants. In their cozy suburban home, they had met in college during a literature class where he sat behind her, passing notes about the professor's monotonous drone. He was kind, with soft brown eyes and a smile that crinkled at the corners. Their courtship was sweet and uncomplicated. Picnics in the park, late-night talks about dreams. He proposed on a rainy evening, down on one knee in their tiny apartment, a simple diamond ring glinting under the lamplight. "Emily, you're my everything," he said, and she believed him. Marriage had brought comfort, but also routine. Mornings started with coffee and quick kisses goodbye. Evenings with dinner and television shows they watched in companionable silence. Daniel worked long hours at his accounting firm, coming home exhausted but always with a hug for her. "How was your day, love?" he'd ask, and she'd reply with the usual fine, even when it wasn't. The passion that once kept them up all night had faded into familiarity, like an old sweater warm but worn. With Alex, everything felt alive. Their conversation started over coffee breaks, evolving into lunches where they shared stories of their lives. He told her about his travels backpacking through Europe after college, sleeping under stars in remote villages. "Life's too short for regrets," he said, his gaze locking onto hers. Emily opened up about her frustrations, the way her creativity felt stifled at times. How marriage sometimes felt like a cage disguised as security. "Daniel's wonderful," she said, "but it's like we're just going through the motions." One evening, after a grueling deadline, the team headed to a nearby bar called the Velvet Lounge. Dim lights cast shadows on velvet booths, and as music played softly in the background. Daniel was out of town for a conference, so Emily stayed longer than usual. Alex slid into the seat next to her, their thighs brushing under the table. "To a job well done," he toasted, clinking his glass against hers. As the night wore on, colleagues peeled away, leaving them alone. They talked about art, music, the dreams they had as children. His hand found hers across the table, fingers intertwining. "You're captivating, Emily," he whispered. The air between them crackled with unspoken desire. She pulled away first, heart pounding. "I should go," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Outside, rain began to fall, slicking the streets. Alex offered to share a cab, and in the back seat, their hands met again. The kiss happened suddenly, his lips on hers, soft yet insistent, tasting of whiskey and promise. Emily melted into it, her mind a whirlwind of excitement and terror. When the cab stopped at her house, she fled without a word, her lips tingling, her wedding ring feeling heavy on her finger. The next day at work, Alex caught her in the hallway. "About last night," he started, but she cut him off with a smile. "It was a mistake," she said, though her body betrayed her, leaning closer. "But it wasn't a mistake, it was the beginning." Messages started innocent at first, then flirtatious. Thinking about that kiss, he texted one night while she sat beside Daniel on the couch. She deleted it immediately, but the words burned in her memory. Their first real encounter happened a week later. Emily told Daniel she had a late client meeting. Instead, she met Alex at a small hotel downtown, the kind with anonymous rooms and no questions asked. Nervousness knotted her stomach as she knocked on the door. He opened it, pulling her inside with a hunger that matched her own. They didn't speak much, words were unnecessary. His hands explored her body, tracing curves she hadn't thought about in years. She gasped as he kissed her neck, her back arching against the crisp sheets. It was passionate, urgent, a release of pent-up longing. Afterward, lying in his arms, she felt alive but also hollow. "This can't happen again," she murmured. He kissed her forehead. "But it will." And it did. The affair became a secret world, parallel to her life with Daniel. They met in parks during lunch, stealing kisses behind trees. Weekends when Daniel visited his parents, Emily and Alex escaped to a cabin in the woods, where they cooked meals together, laughed over wine, and made love by the fireplace. Alex was attentive, whispering compliments that made her feel beautiful, desired. "You're the most passionate woman I've ever known," he'd say, his fingers tangled in her hair. With him, she was free, no expectations, no routines, just pure connection. But the lies weighed on her. At home, she avoided Daniel's touch, feigning tiredness. He noticed the change. "You seem distant lately," he said one evening over dinner, his fork paused midair. Emily forced a smile. "Just work stress." He reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "I love you, you know that?" Guilt twisted like a knife in her gut. She loved him too, in a way, loved the stability, the history they shared. But Alex filled a void she hadn't known existed. Months passed in this duality. Emily's days were filled with anticipation for stolen moments or nights with restlessness. She dreamed of both men. Daniel's gentle embrace, Alex's fiery passion. One afternoon, in Alex's apartment, a loft with exposed brick and art on every wall, they lay together after an intense session. "I want more than this," Alex said, his voice serious. "Leave him? We could be together for real." Emily's heart skipped. The idea terrified and thrilled her. "I can't," she replied, dressing quickly. But the seed was planted. The cracks began to show. Daniel found a stray earring in her car, not hers. "Whose is this?" he asked, holding it up. Emily stammered, "A co-worker's. She must have left it after a ride." He accepted it, but suspicion lingered in his eyes. Her friends noticed too. At a brunch with her best friend Sarah, who had been her maid of honor, Sarah leaned in. "You seem different," glowing, but also worried. "Is everything okay with Daniel?" Emily waved it off. "Of course. Just busy." The climax came during a work trip to a conference in the city 2 hours away. Emily and Alex shared a room, their days filled with sessions, nights with intimacy. On the last evening, as they walked along the riverfront, lights reflecting on the water, Alex stopped. "I love you, Emily. I can't keep sharing you." She froze, tears welling. "I love you too," she admitted, the words escaping before she could stop them. They kissed under the stars, but as she pulled back, reality hit. Daniel was home, waiting, trusting. The drive back was torture. She replayed every moment, the joy, the betrayal. By the time she arrived, resolve hardened. She couldn't live the lie anymore. That night, after Daniel greeted her with a hug and a home-cooked meal, she sat him down in the living room, the clock ticking like a countdown. "There is something I need to tell you," she began, her voice trembling. Daniel's face paled as she confessed everything, the kisses, the meetings, the love she felt for another man. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you." He sat in stunned silence, then stood, pacing the room. "How long?" he asked, voice breaking. "Months." He collapsed into a chair, head in hands. "I thought we were happy." They talked through the night, raw and honest. Daniel admitted he had felt the distance but blamed himself for working too much. Emily explained her loneliness, the excitement Alex provided. "But I choose you," she said. "If you'll have me." He looked at her, hurt etched in his features. "I don't know if I can forgive this." The following weeks were hell. Daniel moved to the guest room, their interactions polite but strained. Emily quit her job to avoid Alex, who called and texted until she blocked him. She threw herself into therapy, alone at first, then together with Daniel. The counselor, a kind woman with graying hair, guided them through the pain. "Betrayal shatters trust," she said, "but it can be rebuilt if both want it." Slowly, healing began. They went on dates, walks in the park, dinners at new restaurants, rediscovering each other. Daniel shared his fears of inadequacy, Emily her need for adventure. They traveled to a beach town where they renewed their vows in a private ceremony at sunrise, waves crashing as witnesses. "I promise to choose you every day," Emily said, slipping the ring back on his finger. Time mended the wounds. A year later, their home felt warm again, filled with laughter. Emily started freelancing, finding balance balance. Daniel cut back hours at work. They conceived a child, a daughter they named Grace, symbolizing their second chance. As Emily held the baby, Daniel by her side, she knew the affair had nearly destroyed them, but it also taught them to cherish what mattered. In the end, love prevailed, not the fiery kind, but the enduring one. Forged in fire and stronger for it, Emily never looked back, grateful for the life she almost lost.